Okay. Mr. Brown.
Good evening and welcome to the council meeting for the town of Newmarket on Monday, January the 18th, 2016. All members of council are present and Mayor Van Buyen is presiding.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Shelton, if you could advise us of any amendments to the agenda, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have an addendum. The first item is that our treasurer will be providing a brief presentation as part of item 8, dealing with the proposed 2016 budget. Second item, this is item 14, is a deputation request from Mr. John Heckbert to address council regarding Davis Drive redevelopment. And item 15, Mr. Chris Campbell to address council regarding item 8, being Corporate Services Report Financial Services 2016-04, which relates to the final approval of the 2016 operating and capital budgets. In addition, we have added a closed session item in the event that council wishes to go into closed session, which relates to discussion of a pending land acquisition in the town of Aurora relative to Centre York Fire Services. In addition, the minutes from the Special Committee of the Whole meeting regarding the draft Council Code of Conduct and Special Committee of the Whole closed session regarding a pending land acquisition have been distributed to members of council, and that's a land acquisition that I just referred to. Also, there's a very minor correction to item 23 of the Committee of the Whole minutes of January 11th, 2016. It is a Development and Infrastructure Services report, engineering services, and it is the change in the word by, or sorry, the change in the word in to by. So it's at a Public Information Center meeting be held by Q3 2016 as opposed to in the third quarter. Are there any questions?
Could you just clarify which minutes that's contained in, Mr. Sheldon?
Those are from the Committee of the Whole minutes of January 11th.
Okay, not the special?
No.
Okay, and item number?
The item number is 23. Any questions on these addendum items? Thank you.
Thank you. So you've seen the amendments, members of council. Could I have a motion, please, to make the additions and the corrections? Councillor Kerwin, Councillor Sponga. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Oh, that's, yeah, we're electronically voting this evening. Thank you. And that is passed. First item then is declarations of pecuniary interest. Regional Councillor.
Thanks very much. I'm going to declare a pecuniary interest or conflict of interest on item 8 of this agenda, the operating and capital budgets. If you look at that under items A, B, and D, there is a subset of I. Each of those 3 I's are related to advertising for the town of Newmarket. And my wife works for Metroland Media, who does have advertising with the town of Newmarket. And therefore, I'll be declaring a conflict in regards to that. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll deal with those separately then. Councillor Vig.
I'll be declaring a pecuniary interest, a conflict of interest, in the deputation to be made by John Blumenstein. I'm the Vice Chair of the Newmarket Public Library, and in that capacity I attended the Ontario Library Association conference. At this conference, morning breakfast events started at 7:30 a.m. and evening networking events didn't conclude until 10 p.m. or later. As per the library policy, I opted to stay overnight in Toronto on 3 of the 5 days of the Ontario Library Board, Ontario Library Association conference. My understanding is that the deputant may ask council to launch a code of conduct investigation or integrity commissioner in relation to my attendance at this conference, which could lead council to a decision point and me to having pecuniary interest. So for that reason, I won't be participating or voting on that matter.
Thank you. Councillor Hampton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On January the 11th, item number 20, I declared a conflict as it relates to the Davis Drive marketing and potentially some type of initiative and financing and money being put towards advertising for businesses and property owners on the street to encourage future developments. As I have in the past, I declared a conflict that I own a piece of property at 20 Hill Street and 232 Penn Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll deal with that separately then. Okay. We do have a presentation with respect to the budget. It might be appropriate to have that presentation just prior to dealing with the report under item number 8 and to receive any deputations that relate to that at that time as well. Our first deputation then is Mr. Blaumenstein, and he's to address council with respect to Delta Hotel reimbursement. Mr. Blaumenstein, we permit up to 5 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. For the context of council, back on March 2nd, you'll recall, the Deputy Mayor tabled a motion about a former councillor's expense account, and he made allegations about this person that were published in the newspaper that Mr. Taylor's wife works for. And in fact, that newspaper who wrote 3 articles about that particular motion, and yet today it's silent on what I'm going to speak about on this particular issue. And at the time, the Deputy Mayor and the Mayor, and others, when I came before council and complained about this motion, even members of Newmarket staff who I met with privately, everyone was adamant, both in public and in private meetings, that this March 2nd motion wasn't done for political or malicious or vexatious reasons. In fact, the Deputy Mayor has issued court documents that claims fair public comment with regards to this March 2nd motion. And when he was asked to explain about the motivations for passing this. And what he means by that is that the public had a right to know what he was alleging and that he was serving the public good by making these allegations. Moving the calendar ahead a few more months, and we actually have a sitting councillor right now who's got some serious, tough questions to answer with regards to his own expenses as far as that goes. And I've just got them posted up here in terms of what they are. The facts regarding Councillor Vey's library conference or expenses are really indisputable. And back in May 2015, the town of Newmarket staff defined the process by which these matters should be reviewed, and staff recommended that an integrity commissioner would be the only course of action to take to investigate whether these were reasonable expenses or not. Unfortunately, and you've heard from me this morning about this particular issue, Council has placed a moratorium on the public making code of conduct complaints or moving code of conduct complaints forward. So the public can't do anything about this moratorium, but Council certainly can. So it's time to see if those who were so zealous about this March 2nd, 2015 motion are equally zealous in this particular issue. And, basically asking you to put your money where your mouth is, in terms of your so-called fair public comment and so on and so forth. So tonight you're going to pass a budget, and you're going to tell us, because I've seen last meeting as well, that you worked hard in terms of keeping costs in line and that type of thing. I think Mr. Vey's spending, and here's some more details with regards to the type of spending and what he could have done as opposed to staying in a hotel. This type of stuff is going to be a very hard thing to answer in terms of why he chose the Delta Hotel, as opposed to some cheaper options. The Queen stays at the Royal York, and maybe that's good enough for the Queen, but not good enough for Mr. Vey. So I'm going to remind you, though, that earlier this morning, Mr. Vey criticized about the process of making a complaint, through the integrity commissioner type process. And he implied in no uncertain terms that those who complained were in fact or potentially abusing the system. And various members of this council agreed with him, in terms of his statement this morning. But there are only certain things that private citizens can do. There are very few methods that we can take to influence how our elected officials behave. And I'm going to outline them for you. As a citizen, we can vote. As a citizen, we can run for office. We can write letters to the editor. We can email our council members. We can write opinion pieces and post them on social media if we like. As a citizen, we can engage in public forums when feedback is requested. And finally, as a citizen, we can make complaints, such as filing a closed-door meeting investigation or an elections campaign finance audit committee complaint. Not every citizen can do all of these activities, but I have done all 5 in the past year. And I believe that my municipal government is better because of the actions I have taken in these 5 methods. Yet this morning, I hear Mr. Vey saying that he would like complainants to be identified when they put forth complaints. And if I understand his complaints correctly, if a staff member, for example, were to complain about sexual harassment and Mr. Vey's suggestions were adopted, then she could potentially be exposed for complaining about a council member. Is that really where we want to go with this?
Mr.
Is that the
Blomstein,
type of thing we want to take?
I have you at the 5 minutes.
I'm just going to sum up very quickly then.
But there is an opportunity for you to provide additional input to the code of conduct as we go forward
Absolutely.
with that item. Okay,
So just to sum up, this is the comments here from the staff, and I'm really asking council to put forth an integrity commissioner review, as you've done in the past, which we talked about this morning, that you can do again to investigate Mr. Vey's expenses and determine if they are reasonable, given where he lives versus where the hotel is.
Thank you. Motion to receive, regional councillor, seconded by Councillor Twinney. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, firstly, yep. Well, thank you. Firstly, I'd like to say that conferences and seminars are an important part of continuing education for members of council. And for example, hundreds of elected officials attend the AMO, or the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And the conference that Councillor Vague attended is the equivalent for libraries. And having said that, the library board decision to determine who would attend and who they would consider to be appropriate is a matter within their mandate. Mr. Clerk, if this matter is to be reviewed under the Code of Conduct, what is the process that would be available to any member of the public who wishes to file a complaint?
Through to you, Mr. Mayor, any person who believes they have unreasonable grounds that a member of council has breached the council code of conduct can file a complaint or present a letter to my office, and that will be sent confidentially to the Integrity Commissioner for review.
Thank you. Regional Councillor?
Thanks very much. I was mentioned there several times and alluded to several times, and I'd like to make a couple of comments as well as in response. And first of all, I think it's important to have accurate and fair statements when casting accusations. Councillor Vague did not today ask for complainants to be identified. He asked if we could identify the number of complaints in a given year and the number of complainants, and the record will show that. So to say on the record here that he asked to have complainants identified is misleading. Secondly, mentioning that my wife works for Metroland, at the time of the occurrence that Mr. Blomstein just referred to, she did not work for Metroland. She has worked for Metroland for less than a year. I think that's a very important fact that was misrepresented as well. Finally, I'd like to say that I don't believe, I do believe in fair comment, but I don't believe that these two circumstances merit the same response. The fact is, as the mayor has stated, is that members of council attending a conference and having costs remunerated by the municipality is common across Canada, the United States, and North America. It is not common to have the expense of taking out an attack ad on a leader of a provincial party paid for by a municipality. They're very, very different things, and they deserve a very, very different treatment. I'd like to close by stating that the deputant, as well as showing and taking the steps that he has pointed out that he's taken, has, in roughly the past year, launched an Integrity Commissioner investigation against me, a campaign audit for which I had to retain lawyers, and has taken me to small claims court. I don't find his method of engagement, personally, from my opinion, productive. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item then is the approval of the minutes. Sorry. Oh, sorry. We do have additional deputation requests, I believe, from Mr. Heckford that are relative to Davis Drive, which is the January Committee of the Whole. Might be best to receive the deputation at that time. And then at the same time to receive the item number 8 budget deputation at that time, following the presentation. That's with the concurrence of members of council. Is that okay? Are we good? Okay, thank you. So we're going to deal with this later. We're going to be bringing that report forward at the committee of the, when we deal with the committee of the whole minutes, and then we'll receive your deputation at that time, okay? Thank you. Next item is the council minutes of December the 14th. Are there any corrections or amendments that are required? Councilor Broom-Clement?
Thank you. With regards to the council minutes of December 14th, item number 35, Yonge Street to Ritas Trail, I would like council to reconsider this matter and hear an alternate approach to a trail connection that would better meet the needs of the residents.
Okay. If I could, Councillor, maybe we could bring that up under new business. The matter that we're dealing with now is the accuracy of the minutes of the council meeting, but we can come back to that under new business. Okay? Could I have a motion then to approve the minutes as distributed? I move the minutes. Councillor Kerwin, Councillor Vague, all those in favor?
That means that they're accurate.
That's correct. And that is carried. Next item then is a report from regional representatives. Regional Councillor.
Thanks very much. A few things to provide updates on, and I'll try to be relatively quick. First of all, the region is undergoing some major master planning processes that occur approximately every 5 years in various areas. The transportation master plan is ongoing. I have provided information previously on that. I just want to bring to everyone's attention that the water and wastewater master planning process is also underway, and people can provide feedback through various ways, but water master plan at york.ca is a place to find out more information or how to input. Also, in the town of Newmarket on January the 26th, 2016, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. At York Region Administrative Building on Yonge Street will also be a open session, and there's another chance for feedback for people who are interested in providing input or reviewing what some of the considerations are being given towards water and wastewater planning for the long and the short term. Also, I just want to recap, I have mentioned before about the regional budget being passed. Just want to recap for everybody that the regional budget has passed. It passed in late December. It's a 2.85% increase. York's budget is $2.8 billion budget, $783 million in capital projects, approximately $2 billion in services or operational budget. The highlights of the York Region budget include 17 new York Region police officers, 20 paramedic staff, a rent supplement program for expansion and more resources to address homelessness and support community housing. Also contributing to the funding of the new York University Markham Center campus, part of our economic development plan, and also planting 2,500 new street trees. Those are just a few highlights. There's obviously more information online. And finally, I just want to mention that in committee this month, there was a request from Vaughan and for committee to look at and for council to look at, and which will be occurring, is to look at the potential and the implication of reduced transit fees for seniors in off-peak periods. And so that is ongoing at the region as well. And those are the updates for this council meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? Being none, then we'll go forward to the reports of committee and staff. Item number 3 is the special committee of the whole of January the 11th, and specifically item number 1, which is the presentation, so it would be appropriate to prove that. And the presentation itself is received. We'll be dealing with the balance of the budget under item number 8. So I have a motion with respect to the minutes of the January 11th committee of the whole. Councillor Vague, seconded by Councillor Twinney. All those in favor? Thank you. Item number 4 is the Committee of the Whole of January the 11th. We'll deal with item number 20 separately as a result of the declaration. And we will have a deputation with respect to that item as well. Are there any items on this agenda that members would wish to deal with separately? Councillor Twinney.
From the January 11th Committee of the Whole, correct?
Yes.
Item number, sorry, what's out of here? My apologies. Item number 21.
Okay, item number. Okay, are there any others to be dealt with separately? I have a motion then to adopt the minutes and the recommendations of the Committee of the Whole, January the 11th, with the exceptions of item number 20 and 21. Regional Councillor, is there a seconder? Councillor Broom Plumley. All those in favor?
Number 20, Mr. Mayor, has a comment there.
Okay, before we do so, though, Councillor, perhaps we could have that deputation. Mr. Heckbert's deputation relates to this, and then following that deputation, we'll deal with item number 20. Mr. Heckbert, would you come forward now, please? We permit up to 5 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, Davis Drive redevelopment. We all kind of agree that Davis Drive does need to be redeveloped. Large portions of the street are old, dated, need to be replaced. The central focus, and it's been addressed through the secondary plan as well, but the central focus for the secondary plan primarily has been focused around the residential and mixed-use redevelopment of the street. However, history has proven time and time again the population always follows employment. Secondary plan, while referencing employment, doesn't fully address how the town plans on adding 30,000 new jobs to our town portfolio in the next 15, 20 years. Now, a list of towns in that area that have been affected by population shifts and employment shifts. And no town seeks to be a bedroom community. They become that through urban sprawl. We've seen it with Oakville, we've seen it with Barrie, we've seen it with Malton. And the economic development is key. Job growth in town, you've heard that tonight. Jobs are important to people in town. And job growth in town, whether it's 100 or 570, has been anemic at best. We need to put some concentrated effort on bringing in jobs. I'd personally like to see 30,000 new jobs and be able to write 1% of the mortgages for all of those people that come into town. I'd be a very happy man for a year. Because residents equate quality job growth to economic development. From a town's point of view, it's additional tax revenue, but for the residents of the town, it's all about, can I work and live and play in Newmarket? All of this despite the fact that Newmarket has one of the best economic development officers in Ontario. His former employer still raves about the effort and contributions he made there. Yet he's the most underutilized staff member in town. He spends a significant portion of his time performing duties for the Main Street BIA that are best done by an administrative clerk. I'm not sure that's the best use of his time and talent. We don't need another economic development officer. We already have 7 councillors who can promote the town just as well as any economic development officer. Although I think one more will certainly help the cause. But we need to be competitive. We can no longer rely on the senior levels of government, the province and the regions, to be our largest employers. The global economy is shifting. We've all seen the newspapers. Stock markets are crashing. dollars going down. And there are opportunities available in that moment of chaos for us to take, but we need to act on them, and we need to do that quickly. But I think we can agree whatever we've been doing in the past hasn't been working. We now need to be bold so business hears what we have to offer. What I'm suggesting is nothing new. It's been done before. It's had success in different communities. And maybe it's just time for us to take a look at it and see if it would work here for us as well. One of the ideas for those that are willing to relocate to Newmarket or that are already here and employ 5 or more full-time employees, we offer them a 20-year tax deferral. We do need to be mindful of international treaties because there are some things we can't do as far as encouraging businesses to relocate, but we should do everything we can to enable that to make it happen. For businesses that are less than 7 employees, we offer a smaller tax deferral. This way we can attract employers who will hire Newmarket residents so that they can reap the benefit of this tax deferral or even bring new residents to town. It will cause the redevelopment of Davis Drive to begin in earnest without the need to prime the pump with gifts of town land. Some other ideas. To spur residential development in tandem with business attraction, offer forgivable down payment assistance for first-time buyers who buy in targeted areas and or targeted housing types. Obviously, we need to put some conditions on it, length of ownership, increase the tax rate slightly for those properties so we can recoup some of our investment, and maybe even tie the assistance to employment in town. We heard briefly about the region's efforts in Markham as far as helping the university. One of the other things we could try to do is put together a center of excellence and a training center for skilled trades here in Newmarket. Apprenticeships are a key part of their training, but there is a sizable classroom portion for that training now. And maybe if we become the center of excellence for skilled trades, we'll benefit long-term residents. The challenge with that is that there is the number of schools offer training for skilled trades, but there's not a single location, central location, which offers this training for all skilled trades. And there is some synergistic stuff some synergistic learning that can take place if you can put a carpenter, a drywaller, and a plumber together in the same room as they're learning.
I have you at 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you.
Would you please wrap up?
That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions of clarification?
Yes, I do.
Councillor Hemp?
I know I declared a conflict on this, but some statements were made, and I just wanted to get clarification on them. I appreciate the deputation, look forward to residents stepping forward and bringing ideas forward that can spur on economic development for our community and bring jobs to our community. It's a vital part of our town. There was a suggestion of deferring property taxes to new businesses coming into town for 20 years. Now, a big part of economic development is also retaining businesses in town. We see often a lot of municipalities, people are leaving the community. So a big part, in my opinion, of an economic development officer is going out to existing businesses that are employing people and trying to keep them here. All municipalities all over Ontario are trying to grab people and companies and attract them to their municipality. Have you had a chance to take a look at what we would do if we were to defer the existing jobs and businesses in our community and what that cost would be for 20 years, just to create a fair playing field for existing businesses that we really want to retain? Have you had a chance to look at that number?
No, I haven't. It's a great question, and it's one I haven't had a chance to look at. As far as deferring the taxes, I would focus personally, whether we can do it or not, it's another issue for the courts to decide.
That's right.
But whether or not we could require that the people, if you're an employer in town, a certain percentage of your employees have to live within the town, so we kind of offset the loss of commercial tax revenue with increased residential tax revenue. It's worked well. Waterloo did it with Rim and Blackberry, and they've grown their population on average while Rim and Blackberry were growing at 3 to 3.5% a year. 2007, they slowed to 1, which I think is indicative of a lot of other towns. Again, I haven't had a chance to go through to find out what the actual dollars and cents impact would be, but if we could offset the decrease in commercial tax revenue with increased residential by making that part of the condition of getting the deferral, that might allay some of those concerns. It's a fair concern, though.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one more comment then. I will be asking in the future for our staff to come forward and tell us what the costs of those would be. Right now, I guess commercial commercial businesses are actually subsidizing residential. They're paying at a higher tax rate. I guess that's a philosophical question, and whether residential should pay more or commercial should pay more. If you ask most residents, I think they would agree that commercial should pay more. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Might be appropriate to receive the deputation and refer it to staff for consideration. I know that the program is going to receive an awful lot of attention over the next few months. So a motion to receive then?
I'll second
And
that
refer.
point. No,
Okay,
sorry.
we're not dealing with the report itself. Okay, so I'll take it, but I will take another seconder out of regional councillor. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Let's deal with the report item number 20. The recommendations are before you. It relates to a targeted marketing program and in advance of the redevelopment, for the advance of redevelopment of Davis Drive. Could I have a motion with respect to the recommendations, please? Regional councillor, is there a seconder? Councillor Bazans. Thank you. Regional councillor speaking to the motion as the mover.
Thanks very much. I think that this is going to be a very interesting process that we're engaging in, and we've taken some steps in the past, and certainly our BIA, which reaches on to portions of Davis Drive, also have taken steps in the direction of trying to look at ways we can advance the redevelopment of certain areas of town and of Davis Drive, particularly now that Viva is complete. Attracting, there's no question that, and I've mentioned this before, but attracting residents to this area is not the difficult part. It's attracting jobs, and that is a challenge. And we try to keep to that 2-to-1 ratio as well as possible, and we're one of the more successful municipalities at doing so in York Region. York Region, of course, is one of the fastest growing census divisions in Canada by population, but it's the work we have to do around jobs, and obviously we're taking some approaches there with the university and looking at broadband opportunities. But the other thing that I really think is important to recognize is that the region's also undergoing some work that runs in parallel to the work that we're doing, which is on an office attraction study, and they've already produced some interesting documentation to read, and that focuses on centres and corridors, of which Newmarket and Davis Drive is part of both centres and corridors. And so I think we've got to look at this. I think we have to look at what we can do and what we can't do. There are costs and to some types of incentives, and some fairly bold examples were just given. We'll have to look at the best practices and the research as best we can to figure out where the balance lies. But I think we have to recognize that if we invest significantly, or we reduce commercial or business taxes or defer them significantly, and those businesses, for example, aren't here in 20 years or whatever, or even in the short term, it's the residential taxpayers, it's the person living in homes that picks up the cost. And so that's something we have to weigh very heavily as councillors. We've got seniors living on fixed incomes who are working and struggling often to just manage their property taxes. And if we try to incentivize something, and let's say there's going to be 2 or 5 or 7 businesses each of the following years that we're going to come to Newmarket, regardless of the incentive, we've just deferred 20 years worth of taxes, and those tax increases will fall on the residential taxpayer. So I think we have to explore these options, look at them all, and look at best practices. So I'm glad we're going down this road. I'm glad we're working in conjunction with the region's work in this area. But it's going to be very difficult to land on what exactly is responsible spending, i.e. deferrals or breaks that will incentivize the way we want, and what isn't, and that will come through the process. Thank you.
Thank you. As a seconder, Councillor Bazans?
Yes, I also support.
Thank you.
I support this motion, and certainly the the direction to include an economic development congress this year, where we can encourage and hopefully elicit further input from a broader range of stakeholders, including the kinds of ideas that were presented through the deputant today. I'm very optimistic and encouraged by the thought that that people who are currently doing business in this town and employing people and have a very good sense and idea of what some of their challenges are with respect to being able to hire and to find and hire the caliber of employees that they need to sustain and make their businesses competitive. There was a recent report released through the Ontario Chambers of Commerce that looked at the state of the economy and specifically noted that within this region, some of the predominant areas of growth are being led by the scientific and research communities. And that presents itself with itself a whole range of needs and areas where we have to look at how can we make Newmarket an attractive place for those kinds of companies that are leading the growth areas in the economy to locate here. And that includes looking at the kind of infrastructure that those organizations and companies need to be able to thrive and employ people. You know, it's interesting to use Waterloo and Blackberry as an example. I think that was great during the halcyon days. Unfortunately, we know the situation with Blackberry now, but certainly what happened was an encouragement of other kinds of similarly related companies in the research and development area in technology that followed Blackberry. So those are the kinds of things that I think we have to look at, what kinds of incentives, what kinds of programs, what kind of infrastructure, and that includes looking at information technology and the gigabyte infrastructure. You know, it's not just for looking at how do we increase broadband for the individual resident that the gigabyte program is looking at, but really looking at what do companies that will lead the charge on economic growth need to be able to locate and thrive and employ in any particular community. So I know that I've kind of covered a lot of ground trying to address this, but I think that we have a number of elements in this plan that will engage the business community, will provide opportunity for members of the public to be engaged, and for us to get some expertise around this area to formulate some options, some ideas, and hopefully a bold strategic vision and concrete action plan that we can implement to make not only Davis Drive thrive, but the town and employment opportunities thrive.
Thank you. Councillor Vague.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments both on what we're doing here and the deputation that we've heard. There already is a movement towards, if we can call it, clustering training and experience in the skills trade. George Brown College has a campus devoted to the construction trades and skills trades, and in terms of the trading, the unions, etc., they have clustered in Vaughan, just west of the 400. Very, very strong connections with the George Brown College and other training institutions. It'd be very difficult for us to start to compete in that area when we only have 14 square miles. We already have roots, if you will, in different parts of the region, and so I would really caution against going in that. It already is well established, fairly close to Newmarket, and is fairly successful. Another comment I'd like to make is I really like to caution against offering tax breaks to attract businesses. Quite frankly, that was done in the 70s and the 80s, and it attracted very mobile and transient businesses such as call centers. I'm not saying it was done here in Newmarket. And those businesses will frankly stick around while they have the tax break. As soon as that break is gone, they'll move. They came from someplace that offered them incentive. We offered an incentive to draw them here, but these are very mobile, transient-type businesses. And as soon as you start phasing out that subsidy, they tend to move. And that's been the experience in Canada and the United States when they're trying to use that as an incentive. That being said, though, one of the great values and the great attractions of Newmarket to employers is we have a very highly educated, high-skilled population, workforce living here. That is what we need to be marketing out there, because the people that live here would love to work here. I know I commuted at one point for about 10 years. Unfortunately, I don't have to commute now. But the people that live here, they would love to work here, and that is what is scarce, and that is what is attractive to employers. When we start talking about our workforce, our population, and start marketing it on that end. So I am in support of the direction we're going with this. We do have a lot of great opportunities leveraging the health center, and also, frankly, our government centers here. It makes it for a very stable economy. And I am in favor of the direction we're going here in our targeted marketing program to advance the development of Davis Drive.
Thank you. Any other comments? I support the recommendations as well. I think that it's a very comprehensive review, and it does build a good foundation as we go ahead, and it will incorporate a lot of the strategic priorities that we've already established and that we've adopted as a council. So I'm looking forward to what our commissioner will be bringing forward to us for consideration. Any further questions? I'll call the question then. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Next item, number 5, is the Committee of the Whole closed. Sorry, you're right. Item number 21. We did pull item number 21. Could I have a motion with respect to item number 21, the recommendations? Okay, Councillor Kerwin is the mover. Is there a seconder for this?
I'll second.
Regional Councillor. Okay. Speaking to the motion, Councillor Kerwin.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We just talked about revamping and renovating Davis Drive. And this is a link with Pickering College, but it's more than that. There are many aspects to this Hollingsworth proposal. And this will compensate partly for the loss of that arena. But if we're successful, it could bring in literally hundreds of millions of dollars of development industry into the town of Newmarket. And talk about employment. If we succeed with the complete Hollingsworth development, which is part of Pickering, it will be a success story for public transit. It'll be a success story for commerce. It'll be a success story for us to replace an arena that's approaching 50 years old. And when you look at the area that we're looking at, and I suggest that anyone go to the Roxborough Retirement Home, and you look north across Davis Drive to the old gas station, the dilapidated plaza, that piece of property known as Hollingsworth that has not one garden on it whatsoever, and you take a look at the back of the Huron Heights Secondary School, we have the opportunity of rejuvenating this entire corner of Patterson and Davis, and that's part of the reason why I support it. It's more than just what's there, Mr. Mayor. It's the whole gambit that what we, as a council, are trying to do with the Davis Drive corridor, and more than that, with underutilized and underdeveloped and badly dilapidated properties in the town of Newmarket.
Thank you. Is the seconder?
Thanks very much. Yeah, I just, first of all, want to be clear on what we're doing here. We are authorizing staff to continue negotiations with Pickering College, and we're authorizing staff to look at other potential locations, not to move forward on anything, but to look at other potential locations for an arena. Obviously, the reason we're doing some of this is because of the possibility of a sale of the Hollingsworth Arena in that area to allow for, as Councillor Corona pointed out, a very significant new development. And we've talked about all the lengths we could possibly go to incentivizing the redevelopment of Davis Drive. We have somebody knocking on our door that's interested, but requires us to participate in that, and so we're exploring that. Now, obviously, it's the responsibility of the town to ensure that if we move forward with this, and that's an if, but if we move forward with this, we do so in a way that we mitigate the risks and protect the town and the residents from the possibility of the site not succeeding, not moving forward. And there's steps that we can take in that regard, and we need to explore those. But this is a significant opportunity for new housing opportunities, economic development. You talk about what the federal government might do in terms of stimulus in different municipalities and how people are waiting for that. The kind of numbers we're talking about here will dwarf the kind of potential federal stimulus this town could potentially see. This is significant economic stimulus and significant redevelopment of Davis Drive and significant housing options. This is something we need to look at. But we're also talking about Hollingsworth Arena. And I do want to say I know that council doesn't completely agree on this direction, and that's fair, that's democracy, and there's concerns raised, and there's some valid concerns raised. But for myself, the way I see Hollingsworth Arena is that it's not used after 3 p.m. every day. And Pickering College, and somebody was asking about it earlier, but here's an opportunity. People are saying, be efficient with your tax dollars, look for savings. Well, we can partner with someone else, provide the same level of service because they need the arena during the day when we don't even open the doors to our arena. So we can partner with somebody else to get better use of your tax dollars and share that facility in a way that's perfectly synergistic. So for myself, I think this is such a win. We have to look at it considering the condition of the Hollingsworth Arena. I even support, if the development of that area can't move forward, I even support exploring Pickering College because of this, because I think it's such a great opportunity, and we should be looking for cost savings wherever we can. In the case that that doesn't work, we can look at other options in case the development moves forward, but maybe if the development does move forward, maybe we don't do that. We look at other options for municipal uses for the Hollingsworth Arena site. Those options still all lay in front of us, and we can still avail ourselves of all of them. This is an opportunity to explore that development, a significant development that has many wins for the community, and an opportunity to find savings by sharing facilities or cost savings by sharing spaces, just as we are with the turf field with the school board. And this is the kind of way we have to start to think about tax dollars in the future, is where's a partner who can help absorb some of the cost with us. So I think this is a very reasonable, logical, fiscally prudent way to move forward, and it seizes a significant opportunity that may be in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Twinney?
Thank you. Well, thank you to my colleagues for their comments. Albeit I feel that there could be great potential with Pickering College having a partnership with them, and I'm always looking, I think partnerships are great in our community. I just feel for myself, I feel that the process is just, moving forward with this process right now is just a little bit too early prior to the fact that we've had no public consultation yet even on Hollingsworth Arena, and looking at all ideas for that area prior to moving forward with the recommendations here. And I just feel a little bit like it's the cart before the horse, and that's just my personal feelings about it. I do look forward to having public consultation on this this municipally owned land, because I feel that once we sell municipally owned land, we can never get it back. So I just feel that there's lots of potential of so many ideas for that area, and to move forward with these recommendations at this time, I'm just not comfortable with. So that's why I won't be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Sponga.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Along the same line as Councillor Twinney, I believe that there are some great opportunities in partnering with Pickering College in building an arena, for the fact that the arena would be available to the municipality and to the public at the times of highest demand, and that those would be the times that Pickering College doesn't have a use for it. Having said that, though, this comes at the expenses of selling the Hollingsworth land, even though it's not defined in the recommendation, but that's the underlying issue. And along some of the same comments that Councillor Twinney made, I believe that development to Newmarket will come when it's profitable, but we don't need to sell our land to get that development. And as Councillor Twinney said, once you're sold it, you're not going to get it back. So for that reason, I will not be supporting this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Hempin.
Thank you. I will be supporting this motion. As has been mentioned before, the Hollingsworth Arena is not open and not used by this municipality prior to, I think, 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and after that, there is some community use and programming that takes place, but during the day, nothing is taking place there. I think it's important that we take a look at options, and that option being a Pickering College and having them cover the cost for daily use. And we have a potential here to look at some major operational cost savings on an additional facility to this, or a facility to this municipality, while benefiting the school and having them cover the cost during the day, but also us as a municipality and different user groups and our hockey association having the opportunity to use that, and us only covering that cost in the evening. I think, you know, we have an opportunity as well as we have someone who's stepped up and said, look, I own the property facing Davis Drive, and I'm interested in potentially developing this site. What was in front of us was the potential for some real different housing options. We hear from residents that they would like to see condos available. They live in this community. It's time that maybe that they've lived their whole lives here, raised their families. They'd like to stay in the community. Their doctors here, their dentists here, their friends are here, their families here, their hospitals here. They don't want to leave the community. They want housing options in our municipality. What is potentially being proposed is a different housing option. That may be rental, a component rental, and that may well be a condos where people can actually sell their homes, take the equity out of their homes, and put it into something else, and purchase a condo and live that next stage of their life. And when they're ready to sell that condo, then they'll move on to the next stage of their life. And wherever they move from that point, whether it be a nursing home or a old age home, but at least they have the opportunity to take some equity out of a condo. And I think that's important that we offer this type of housing option, or we at least look at it. So I will be supporting it, and I look forward actually to seeing further applications coming to the town for housing options for our seniors, and the economic growth and viability of this community.
Thank you. Councillor Broom-Plumley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly agree with Regional Councillor and Councillor Hempin's sentiment, and bringing housing along the corridor is certainly a priority, but I also agree with Councillor Sponga and Councillor Twinney with regards to the process in which this has occurred. I certainly will not be supporting the motion. I feel that more public consultation should have been, or would like to see happen, and more options for the area. As Councillor Sponga and Councillor Twinney said, once the land is gone, it's gone, and we won't get it back. And I'd just like to hear more from the public and residents and staff on potential options for Hollingsworth.
Thank you. Councillor Bazant.
Thank you very much. I'll actually be supporting this motion and have spoken in favor of this at numerous other council meetings when this topic has arisen. I've also been quite the advocate for supporting the public consultation process as part of this. But perhaps, Mr. Mayor, if I could ask a question with respect to the timing of this, because I think, you know, in an ideal world, we would have lots of time to have public consultation and an opportunity to consider other options and other variabilities. But my understanding is that this is sort of a point in time that we have to make a decision with respect to the negotiations with Pickering College. That Pickering College is in the midst of deciding their strategy and their plans for redeveloping the school and their site, and including this arena, and that you know, it's not as if we necessarily have 6 months or a year to sort of go through a process of public consultation and get some other options on the table. So I'd just like some clarity around timing for the Pickering College negotiations.
Mr. Shelton, if we could just clarify that, as well as the public engagement process that is contemplated as we go forward.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to ask the two commissioners to comment on this, since we have our Commissioner of Community Services working with Pickering and our Commissioner of Development and Infrastructure Services looking at the planning process. Council has directed that a public consultation process take place relative to the arena potential replacement as well as a development, and we are looking at a combined public information center approach, and I'll just ask the commissioners if they could set that out and whether we do have a rough date for that.
Okay. Mr. McDougall?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe I'll start, and Mr. Nohammer can speak more specifically to the development process and PIC. As it relates to Pickering College negotiations, we are striving for a February 1st report back to Committee of the Whole on what we hope to be a financial framework from an operating and capital perspective that benefits both the town of Newmarket and the residents within the town, obviously, as well as making sense financially and logistically for Pickering College as well. So it truly is a win-win partnership. But at this time, we're still in the back and forth discussion phase to make sure that that there would be such a partnership to be had. If there's not, then we would be reporting back to council at the appropriate time as well. So as it relates to timelines associated with the negotiations moving forward beyond, assuming that there is a good financial framework and council is in support of it, Pickering College is also contemplating other large expansions on their campus unrelated to this entirely that was already in the works. The area of the campus is where the arena would be contemplated is in a separate portion, so it would not interfere with any other ongoing plans of Pickering College. Pickering College is clear and understands that the town would have some decisions to make and go through a process of public consultation, and they're very comfortable in that process and in whatever time it takes to do that. So that speaks to Pickering College, and perhaps if there's something more specific to the public engagement on the development process, Mr. Nohammer can comment.
Mr. Nohammer. Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. The situation is that Committee of the Whole has asked the proponent or the developer who is proposing development on their own property on at Hollingsworth, Patterson and Davis, and the adjacent Hollingsworth Arena site for a detailed concept plan, and that plan is being prepared by the proponent. When that plan is in hand and when we have more information on the Pickering College situation, we will be hosting a public information center with the community to outline that information, as well as any further process with respect to how the town will deal with the development application as it moves through its own public process. But specifically, the Public Information Center would focus on the arena property and review of the concept plans for the development. The timing of that, we were anticipating a February date for that, but as I mentioned, it is dependent on when we get the materials in. So we will follow up as quickly as we can once we get that material in. Thank you. Regional Councillor, then Councillor Kerwin.
Thanks very much. Just to build on some of the comments, I think it's important to recognize that the motion today is really allowing staff to continue to move forward potential opportunities. And I think we have to keep the door open to potential opportunities and see what exactly they will be and what we can do with them. And so in terms of the public consultation, to make sure that the public consultation is as informed as possible, staff are figuring out what we can and can't, what other options we have for arenas, where the Pickering College opportunity is at or is not at. And so there'll be public consultation, as said, on both the arena and on the development. And that's going to be informed by some of the work that's being done here so that it's a productive consultation. So I think that's coming in process, and I think it's an incredibly important part of it. I'd also point out that, the reference to selling our lands to get development, we need to be strategic, and we need to be nimble, and we need to be entrepreneurial to make a successful economic environment. And we only have to look to the Magna Center to see what we did there. So we surplus lands there, but we purchased them. Later we surplus them, and through that process we were able to establish a first-rate residential neighborhood, including one of Canada's leading environmental communities and neighborhoods. We were able to have soccer facilities, we were able to have community gardens, and we were able to have the Magna Center and attract residential development by being willing to be a little entrepreneurial and to look at what we can do with our lands to its fullest potential. Having said that, I recognize the point that Councillor Twinney and others surely are concerned about, which is, a geographically constrained municipality and public lands. And I do think we have to look strongly, and we will be looking strongly, I hope, certainly advocating for that we look at the same time about acquiring other community space within the town, other community lands. We're constantly looking at what are the right opportunities, and sometimes you can surplus something that's prime location that has other benefits and creates other opportunities while purchasing lands that are less prime, less expensive, and create new community opportunities. And so I think by exploring all this, by having the public consultation, we're doing what I hope the community would want us to do, to look at opportunity and to see what we can do with it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Kerwin.
Thank you, Regional Council. You've summarized it beautifully. I'll just add a few things. There hasn't been a major project in this town that hasn't been controversial. And the votes are split, 6-3, 5-4. Some you win, some you lose. But John has said you have to be nimble. And I respect John Heckbert with his comment on the economy. If this goes ahead, we will be so fortunate to have this kind of money pour into Newmarket. In a time of an economic downturn, which is absolutely sizable, and I don't even think we realize how bad it will be. So you have to move forward. The controversy of the Riverwalk Commons with the tearing down of the arena was a controversial one. We didn't sell the land, but we took the arena down. It was a one arena unit, so is Hollingsworth. It's approaching 50 years old. I've attended many hockey games. My kids played hockey here. I went to the Silver Stick tournament this weekend, spread over 3 days. The Magna Center, the Ray Twinney, the Hollingsworth. The Hollingsworth Arena, talk to anyone. We use it maybe 20% of the time. It's dark, it's dank, it smells, it's old. It's time to move on, time to be replaced, and we've got a partner who's willing to put in some capital. It's just an advantage to us. I go to the Roxborough Centre and I ask people to go up to the floor and talk to some of the residents who look across there. It really is a sad show, not just the torn down or the garage, but the plaza to the, it would be to the east of it. It's old, decrepit, and this person is willing to come in, investing millions of his dollars. San Michael's trying to get partners together to invest money in this. I think we have a potential that we have to move forward with, and if you're not nimble, money will move elsewhere. If you put roadblocks in the way of people, they will take their money and they move elsewhere. And the deindustrialization of Ontario under Obama, who asked the American companies to move out, and they did. From Leamington to Dunnville to Hershey Falls to London, Kellogg's, Heinz, Bix, the chocolate company, Hershey's. And we have unemployment. This will grant employment, lots of it, in the construction industry. And maybe on the site there will be some apprentices and people learning the trades, which we need badly. I've always believed in an apprentice system. So, having been around for 5 decades, nothing happens without debate, without this input from here, they support this, and we move forward. It's not the end if we don't move forward here, but I would believe that we've lost one of the most important opportunities that we've had in a very long time. And if we keep throwing those roadblocks, people will pull out. They will take their money and they will go elsewhere, because they will find things more attractive. So I will be voting for it, and that's why I moved it.
Thank you. Councillor Twinney?
Just a final comment. I just want to reiterate the fact that the reason I'm not supporting it is just because of the process. The process that I believe that we need to have wholesome public consultation and look at all perhaps ideas for that corner. And I don't disagree with Councillor Kerwin and Regional Councillor Taylor that yes, It's an eyesore, trust me. It's not an attractive-looking place. But just because this particular developer bought this gas station does not mean that we have to sell Hollingsworth to him. That's just my feeling, and I just feel that we need to go through a wholesome public consultation process and look at all ideas. And this is why I'm not supporting these recommendations, because I just feel like we're going, like as I said, putting the cart before the horse a little bit. But I don't disagree with the comments from my colleagues, but I do feel that just for me, it's not comfortable moving forward right now until we do that process. Thanks.
Thank you. I will be supporting the recommendations. This is just one step of a full process that will engage the public in all aspects of what we're planning to do. And what this will do is this will firm up one of the options that we're considering, or at least it'll help us decide what other options that we will be pursuing. So there will be full public consultation, there will be full dialogue, and the negotiations that we're having with Pickering College are subject to all of those things. So I will support it. I'm excited about the opportunity of seeing some new and renewal on Davis Drive. That was why there was so much money invested, and I think that the community will benefit by having more options for their residents. So I will be supporting this motion. Okay. I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? That still carries. Now we'll go on to the Committee of the Whole closed session of January the 11th. Could I have a motion, please, that the Committee of the Whole closed session, January the 11th, be approved? Councillor Sponga.
Second.
Regional Councillor. All those in favor? At the January the 11th Committee of the Whole closed session, Council did receive a report and legal advice related to the Magna Centre restaurant. Item number 6 is Committee of the Whole of January the 18th, and the minutes were distributed with the addendum. There is one recommendation, one report and one recommendation. Could I have a motion with respect to the recommendations? This was the preliminary discussion on the draft of the Code of Conduct. I'm waiting for a motion, please.
We're moving the minutes, right?
We're moving the minutes, that's correct.
I'll move. I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in, okay.
Yeah, I'd just like to quickly say something on this. We had, I think, a very, for members of the public, this is in regards to a special committee of the whole meeting this afternoon, where we have continued in a process that's been going a while now, including public consultation on a revision of our Code of Conduct. And I thought we had a really good discussion, some good ideas were circulated, some new suggestions on top of the ones that we'd already input previously. And I think that it's been a very good process, a very open process. We've got input from residents and others, even up to today. It's I think we're making some good progress. This isn't an easy file. I think creating the Code of Conduct, as our consultant ethics scan and David Nitkin said, is always a work in progress, and it's always something you're looking to improve, and there's no such thing as perfection. But I think we've made some great strides in trying to provide some clarity and trying to improve and strengthen guidelines. And so I thought it was a very productive afternoon.
Thank you. Councillor Bay?
Brief comments, and also along the lines of Regional Councillor Taylor. We did go through a fairly comprehensive process with this. We brought in outside expertise, with ethics scan, looking at our code of conduct, looking at other code of conducts, also looking at it more philosophical from an ethical point of view. There was tremendous input provided by the public. There are opportunities for the public to have input. I believe in their session they said they had 6 tables going on it, so I was very pleased and thankful for the members of the public that came in and participated in providing input on our code of conduct. There are individual interviews with us, interviews with the staff, feedback provided. This has been a long process. We received information that, and looking at, I would almost say basically a draft of our code of conduct. We've made a lot of comments on that and suggestions, all designed to make it more transparent, make us more accountable. One thing I do want to stress, though, that a code of conduct, this type of document is a living document. The expectations and standards that come to us from the public, they do change, they do shift. So we will complete this process, but this process will be a living process. And as public expectations change, as social media, for example, evolves, and we get a better grasp of that and how that impacts on our code of conduct and how we deal with the public and with each other. I'm very glad, I'm very pleased where we landed. We did provide many comments to go back. This document will be coming back to council, will be coming back to the public. We do wish to have as much public input as possible on this, but I am pleased with the process, and I am pleased to second the motion.
Thank you. The recommendations do involve having this report referred back to staff to give consideration to the discussion that we had. And that was a streamed meeting as well, so if anybody wishes to have more information, they can have a look at the discussion that went forward.
Yes.
And the draft will be coming back at a future meeting, and that's dependent on how soon we can reflect the direction that was provided today. I will be supporting the recommendations myself. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Next item is the Special Committee of the Whole closed session of January the 18th today. And these minutes were distributed this afternoon. Could I have a motion with respect to? Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor? Given that we've adopted the motion, could I have a motion, please, that the Chief Administrative Officer Closed Session Report Number 2016-01, dated January 13th, 2016, regarding the pending acquisition of land in Aurora by the municipality as per Section 239, Bracket 2, Bracket C, to the Municipal Act be received, and that staff proceed as directed. Could I have that motion, please? Councillor Sponga? Councillor Hempin. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next item is the Corporate Services Report. I believe, Mr. Shelton, you had indicated that we do have a brief presentation, if we could have that. And I believe we do have one deputation as well relative to the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our Director of Financial Services will make the presentation.
Okay. Mr. Mays.
Thank you and good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and the public here and at home. I'm going to give a brief overview of where we're at on the 2016 tax-supported operating and capital budgets. Just an overview of some of the goals for the 2016 budget. What we sought to do is address what we heard from the public about maintaining service levels. This in the face of growth and similar type factors that are making that a challenge. We also continued to address council priorities. Council went through a detailed process of establishing their priorities, and we built that into the budget wherever possible. At the outset of the process, we were given a target of maintaining a tax increase before any infrastructure levy of 2% or less. And we exceeded on all those goals. We also did.
2.55.
Sorry, what did I say? Oh, I stand corrected. It's been a long day. Yes, 2.5%. My apologies. And to do all this while maintaining a budget which is financially sustainable and balances risk, and to address some of the budget drivers that we had. The net result was a tax increase before infrastructure levy of 2.19%, with an infrastructure levy, which is an increase to our asset replacement fund contributions, of 0.8%. This works out for the average residential homeowner an increase of $52.69 per year. As was noted previously, the region has passed this budget. We're waiting for its final tax rates and confirmation on the tax ratios, and from the school board what its tax rates will be. But based upon the known tax increases we're having, we expect for them, we're looking at a 2.35% all-in tax increase for the average resident in Newmarket. On the capital budget, just under $27 million is the program for 2016, all within the funding envelope. Any of the capital program that does not have specific funding sources, that comes out of the general, is fully funded from the operating. We are not drawing down on reserves. And similar, on the asset replacement fund, the contributions required for the 2016 capital budget fit within the funding that will be available from the operating budget. Again, we are not drawing down on reserves. Development charges, the reserve funds, and other sources of financing are readily available. Some of the highlights of the 2016 budget. Additional funding was included in the budget for the community ice rinks. That was an enhancement of $6,500. We're continuing to move forward with going to town-wide sidewalk snow clearing. We're in the second phase in the 2016 budget. And also traffic mitigation, which was implemented starting in 2015. We're further phasing that in 2016. We continue to make investments for our future, increases in the asset replacement fund to make sure we have the infrastructure in place, as well as spending infrastructure dollars to maintain and improve our infrastructure. We're also looking at a stormwater management rate. This will not be implemented in 2016. We're targeting 2017, but have in place doing the studies in 2016. In the fire services, we're extending the depth of their service by hiring additional firefighters towards building another platoon for fire. The creation of a fitness facility at the Magnet Center is one of the capital projects. Extension of Sunday service to all year. Reopening of the Old Town Hall and the community events and programming that will go along with that. And further trail development, including an underpass at Davis Drive. These are just some of the highlights that were contained within the budget. Of course, the main highlight of the 2016 budget is the maintenance of the existing service levels. We made sure that there was no softening of those levels.
Just to clarify, Mike, the year-round Sunday service relates to the library.
Yes, yes it does.
Thank you.
Yes, I will be off on Sundays. Anyway, I want to take this opportunity to thank council. They gave us good direction. It was challenging, but staff was able to bring in a budget that met their requirements. I believe we've, as I noted, continued to deliver on their priorities. Thanks staff. We went through a slightly different process this year. Because of some of the challenges, this budget, as you may recall, included $1.5 million in refinements and reductions to be able to achieve this target. But again, while still being financially sustainable and balancing any risk. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions to the presenter? Councillor Kerwin?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and I don't know whether it's appropriate to ask this question here through Mike Mays or through Peter Neuhammer, our Commissioner of Infrastructure. There was mention in the ERA about a $1.8 million capital expenditure for the Tom Taylor Trail. And I believe that it was mentioned, but I think it needs explanation, Mr. Mayor. And as we're passing the capital budget and the operational budget tonight, I would ask if Mr. Neuhammer could explain to the public and to the viewing audience of where that 1.8 million came from, because it's spread over. It happened a few years ago when we were going to renovate a couple of the bridges by the youth center, and we had money in the budget, but we didn't proceed because we knew the Davis Drive project was going ahead, and we knew there had to be substantial renovations to the Keith Bridge. So could you explain, it was mentioned in the air by Chris Simon about the $1.8 million for the renovation of the Tom Taylor Trail, because it just wasn't just that, it was much more than that, Mr. Neuhammer.
Mr. Neuhammer?
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor. That is correct. In the 2016 capital budget, there is an item, Tom Taylor Trail, Davis Drive Underpass, $1.775 million. That is the total project cost for a trail that would extend essentially from south of the youth center on the east side of the Holland River, behind the youth center, north to the new Keith Bridge, underneath the Keith Bridge, and north towards the tannery and a connection over to the tannery area. This project was originally approved in the 2011 capital budget of the town. It was at a price at that time of approximately $800,000. Since that time, additional scope has entered the project to deal with the turning basin wall and additional elements with respect to pedestrian bridges behind the youth center, and additional requirements of the LSRCA. The funding from the project comes from two main sources. One is a grant from the Region of York for trail implementation of approximately $400,000, and the balance comes from the trail levy. That, in a nutshell, is the scope of the project and its extent.
Just to follow up to Mr. Neuhammer again, and the trail levy, how much is it per unit? It used to be one figure, and then it's been upped over the years. Could you explain that to the public as well?
I'm going to ask the help of the CAO on that one.
Mr. Shelton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a voluntary trail contribution, and that is $1,500 per unit that comes out as part of the allocation for a subdivision. And I just maybe ask for some clarification. There's also a trail component of the development charge that developers are to pay as well. So it will probably come from the two sources. I just confirm that with you, Mr. Mays, if I could.
That would be correct. Under development charges, we do have an allocation for trails.
And the emphasis is it's a voluntary contribution, and I emphasize the word voluntary, by the developers. And I believe it was, we started off with $1,000, and we also have asked them to contribute for artwork also as we progress, and I think some of that money will be used for artwork on the Keith Bridge. Mr. Mayor, through you, I'd like to thank our commissioner and thank our CAO for explaining this. I think it's very important because it goes back to 2 terms of council before it was, and I look forward to having it move forward this year, because our trail systems are used by thousands of people. And I compliment the work that we did on the west side of Ferry Lake with the Tom Taylor Trail. It looks just great.
Thank you. Just to clarify, Mr. Shelton, that will enable a trail on the east side of the Holland River. Is that correct? Underneath the bridge?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. There's been a significant coordination and compatibility effort made with the Viva project to ensure that there are underpasses on both sides of the river, in addition to sections of the trail then bringing the pedestrian up to street level as well, or from street level down to the trail system.
Great. Thank you. Any further questions of the the presentation. Motion to receive, Regional Councillor, seconded by Councillor Kerwin. All those in favor? And that is carried. We do have one deputation request relative to the budget. Mr. Campbell, if you could come forward, please. We permit up to 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I'd just like to preface my statements by thanking the clerk for his very speedy response to my request to speak to you tonight and explaining very clearly the process for the budget considerations tonight. So I thank him. I'd also like to thank Ward 6 Councillor Bloom Plumley for responding to an email I sent to her with regards to the budget tonight, for her speedy response. So I thank you for that also. And I'll probably take more than 5 minutes, Mr. Mayor and council, and I will ask you, obviously, to inform me when my 5 minutes is up. And at that time, you can decide if I should proceed for a few more minutes.
Thank you.
And I would just, Mr. Mayor, like to just, I think I can make maybe a unique point of view with regards to the issue over Pickering College, and I beg you just to give me 1 minute on this point. I'm a graduate of Pickering College. I attended the school in the 1980s. I remember the day that Rogers House was on fire. I remember quite clearly how this town and how the residents of this town opened their hearts to many of the boys there who walked away, some of them, just with their dressing gowns. And I also remember how well this town and how well our school worked collaboratively together in the 1980s in sharing facilities. And I was one of those young men that benefited also. And I know whatever you decide with regards to a joint facility on Pickering College, putting aside the economic considerations, if this council decides to move forward with a joint recreational facility with Pickering College, I'm absolutely confident that there will be great benefit for both parties concerned, because that has been a wonderful partnership over the years. Thank you for letting me make that statement, sir. Well, Mr. Mayor and members of council, I do want to speak to the budget, which I have looked at in detail. And as I drove back up the 404 tonight from my office, there was a number of things that were going through my mind. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, there was no 404. Many years ago, this was a very, very small town. It was a little town that could. And today, I feel somewhat sad. I feel somewhat sad because when I went to my office this morning, I heard the news, like many of you may have, and I know you've been deliberating all day, that Goodwill, an organization that has helped many people get back to work, is facing such difficult economic conditions at the moment that has decided to suspend operations in a number of towns in Ontario, including, unfortunately, the town of Newmarket, where some people will be losing their jobs. No fault of anyone around this table tonight. I feel sad for those people. And I'm working in an industry day in, day where I see people losing their jobs. And I concur completely with Councillor Kerwin. These are some of the most difficult economic challenges we have ever faced. And the toll that it's taking on many families, not just here, but across our country, is very, very, very telling. And I believe, looking at this budget, I'm very concerned about this proposed budget, because it does not, I believe, serve all the people of Newmarket well. I'm very concerned about the cumulative effect of even more tax increases on top of other punitive increases we've seen, which will hit particularly the working class and the dwindling middle class in this town. And these charges, some that are above the rate of inflation, in this difficult economic environment, are really taking a toll on the people that you are representing. I don't believe they should be asked time and time again to pay for the price of some mistakes, for some misguided and sometimes well-intentioned initiatives that lack the rigor of oversight, and of course, for some, salaries on unnecessary spending that come with what I believe are a host of excuses.
I have you at the 5 minutes, so I'll need to have council extend the additional 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Council.
All those, just a minute. Yeah, I think we should vote on it. That's correct.
I'd like to make a comment too.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I won't be supporting this request. I have comments on the budget tonight. I'm an elected member of council, and I wrote my comments to be 5 minutes or less, and they are. Therefore, I won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Okay. What about the rest of the council? Would they like to meet to continue?
Let's wait till the vote is in.
Right to the public.
Yeah.
It's corrupt.
Ready? Vote, please.
Go ahead, Chris.
That is carried.
Hold on, I'm waiting to hear from the mayor.
I'm sorry.
I'm waiting to hear from the mayor.
That is carried. An additional 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members of council. So sometimes I wonder what our children think about government. They look at government and say, sort of a rugged life where mistakes are made, maybe where people come to feather the taps. And I say to them, and I say to our town staff, of which at one time I was a proud member of, there are many fine careers, ones that maybe pay more, but there's something in service in government that's far more important than money. It's a cause that's bigger than yourself. It's the cause of making this town the best it can be. And you know, a long time ago, and it still might be kicking around, there was a tagline for Newmarket. And I'm sure perhaps the mayor and Mr. Kerwin will remember this. Newmarket, the heart of York Region. Well, this town does have a great heart, and the heart comes from those who are really here to serve others. I'm just going to finish up by saying this. As we look to the future, to all of council, I say this to you on this budget night. Fear not to stand alone or with others for what is right. No fear or give into temptation to be one of the crowd of what you think is expected of you by your peers. You have the power to make a difference. There are those outside these doors that are struggling to be members of this community. They don't have a voice. And for some, you and you alone are their only voice. All I can do now is hope that going forward, you will do your best for those outside these walls looking in. I encourage you to be brave. If your conscience is telling you to do so, break from the pack, as today will be gone as fast as it has arrived. And as sure as the sun will rise tomorrow, you will be counted not only by your peers, but those who are looking for and hoping for a brighter day. Churchill once said, "You have enemies? Good. That means you stood up for something sometime in your life." Thank you very much.
Any questions? Are there any questions of clarification? Being none, then a motion to receive this deputation. Councillor Vague, Councillor Twinney, all those in favor? That is carried. Next item then is report number 2016-4, and that's the final approval of our 2016 operating and capital budget. Now, given that there's been a declaration, the way I would like to approach this is that we will separate each of these recommendations, but we will deal with items A, item B, item C, and item D, E and F, as well as II, separately, in order that we can deal with the declaration, and that item number AI will be dealt with independently. So, and BI. That's right, all of those. Yep. So those will be dealt with separately. The other alternative would be deal with A and then AI, B and BI, which would be...
The way it's presented on the screen.
Oh, okay, all right. Since it's set up that way, why don't we deal with it that way? That'll be easier.
I'll move the motion on the screen.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that motion?
I will second it.
Okay, and then we'll deal with the separated items separately. Okay, Regional Councillor as the mover.
Thanks very much, and I'd just like to point out that there have been opportunities, numerous opportunities at numerous budget meetings to depute and share comments before the final session and without extending time periods. The 2016 budget, this has been a long process with many meetings, a great deal of public consultation, and a great deal of input from many sources. And as I stated earlier, this is never an easy process. It's always a difficult process, and we always end up looking at options and ideas often many times over in an attempt to reduce the impact on our residents and the tax increase. We are dealing with a $115 million operating budget and a $26 million capital budget. Now, only 8% roughly of taxes collected from a resident in this country come from a municipality. The rest comes from the federal and provincial governments. However, many estimate that about 80% of the responsibility for infrastructure costs fall to municipality, with only 8% taxing power. This puts a great deal of stress on municipalities, and people across the country and mayors across the country have been speaking about this. But we continue to move forward, and we continue to try to plan for that day. So this 2.99% tax increase includes almost 1%, again, for asset replacement, to ensure that that almost 80% of infrastructure responsibility, that we're managing it, and that we're managing the needs not only as they arise, but into the future. We've been one of the most proactive communities in the province in including operational dollars to address aging assets. We are investing the residents' tax dollars, your tax dollars, to ensure your roads, your water pipes, and your bridges are not falling apart 10 and 20 years from now. That's part of what we're doing today. We're not just dealing with today's costs. It should also be noted that we are beginning a phased hiring of new firefighters for a new station that will ensure we have a very high standard of response for fire-related emergencies in Newmarket. These new hires are not an aspect of a normal or an average budget, but must be dealt with when the need arises. We have a further third of a tax point allowed for these new hires this year. That means the town increase this year, not including new firefighters and asset replacement, is about 1.9%. We also took a number of steps this year to contain costs and limit the impacts that tax increases have on our residents. This year, we set a budget target for staff to bring a draft budget at or below 2.5%, not including asset replacement contributions of 1%, and staff did that. We provided motions directing staff to reduce the operating budget by a further 0.5% below the target. We provided a motion to direct staff to reduce the capital budget by a further $714,000. We supported the implementation of a fitness facility in an existing space at the Magna Centre, which will produce between $50,000 and $100,000 in new revenue in coming years. And we're constantly looking for new revenue opportunities like this, as well as we have with solar panels and with LED lighting. So finally, I'd like to emphasize that when we spend your tax dollars, we try to invest them in a way that will make Newmarket one of the best places to live in the country. While I believe it is our job to contain costs and look for savings, I also believe it is our job to invest in Newmarket strategically. That is why this budget will see the addition of new trails and parks. We'll see the addition of a new artificial turf field. We'll see us move forward on a multi-year plan to plow even sidewalks in Newmarket. We will also hire 4 new firefighters, improve softball facilities at the RJT Centre, and create a new fitness facility at the Magna Centre. We are investing in Newmarket. We've heard from some past candidates for council that they don't want to see these expenditures. They want to see us cut more and more from the budget. Keeping costs down and investing in Newmarket, like we did with the Riverwalk Commons, is a fine balance. But investing in Newmarket not only creates an amazing town to live in, it is also reflected in your property value. According to the Globe and Mail last month, your property values increased in Newmarket in 2015 by 17%. Now, this creates a housing affordability challenge. We recognize that, and we're working on that, like the new rental building on Davis. But it also increases the value of your largest asset. Investing in a great community pays dividends in more ways than one. Again, we're investing in Newmarket on your behalf with your dollars. In conclusion, I can say that with great input from our residents, input from council, input from staff, we've found a budget that balances the need to contain costs and to build a great community. The end result of this process is that the all-in budget increase for the town, the region, and the school board, the increase you will receive in your door, is expected to be below 2.3%. And we will move forward a list of improvements in your parks and your neighborhoods while planning for our future needs. I'm very pleased with the work we've done, and I look forward to seeing the improvements it will bring. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hempin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I seconded this motion, and we've heard of, from our regional councillor, the significant investments made into this community. And I, for one, as a councillor, on a regular basis, am hearing residents asking for improvements to our community, whether it be sidewalk clearing. One of my greatest concerns is our infrastructure in the future. We are, at this time, contributing a significant amount of money to meet with needs of our infrastructure in the future. We have well over $1 billion in infrastructure in our community. That's our roads. The things underneath our roads are water pipes and things like that. These are aging, and they're aging quickly. And there's going to be a time where we need to have the funds to replace them and repair them. I believe we're taking a responsible steps forward in providing this fund and providing the money that's there. We have approximately $10 million, a little bit over $10 million, to deal with our infrastructure in the future. This is a responsible act, and I commend our council for providing this money. It may not be an easy decision, and we hear from residents in the audience that they'd like to see our taxes down. I guess the easy thing would be to say, you know what, let's kick the can down the road. Let's not provide the money for the infrastructure. Let's not tell you we're raising your taxes. But for me, it's a responsible thing to do, and we need to provide that money for our infrastructure. We as a council set a direction to our staff and ask them to keep to a certain percentage increase. Staff have done a wonderful job in doing so. The original amount was much higher that was proposed, and they've stayed within what the direction that this council has set for the community and our tax increase. So I thank them. In the future, I guess if we as a council decide that we'd like to see the number held lower, I, for one, will not be supporting any reduction in the infrastructure funding in the future. It's so important to us, and we can look at other numbers in the future. So thank you again to our staff for bringing forward this budget and working with us.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Bizans, Councillor Kerwin, and Councillor Twinney, then Councillor Vague. Councillor Bizans.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And you know, I echo a lot of what Councillor Hempin said. I mean, this is always a challenge to be able to sort of look at the totality of all of the areas that the town is not only spending money, but looking at it in the context of how that expenditure supports what the residents are looking for. And I know that you know, it would be easy to say that we could go and, you know, eliminate a pair of safety boots here and save some money, and maybe eliminate something else and save some money. And that is one of the directions that we gave to staff after we had set a target and then came back and said, you know what, that target is still too high. We need you to go back and look at bringing costs down even further, because we know that residents are struggling. Not all residents, but there are a number of people in our community that we have to look out for and support in being realistic, but also being respectful of the tax dollars that they're spending. So staff did go away, and they were the ones who identified, you know, where they could exact some more efficiencies without affecting service levels. As a councillor, I receive numerous complaints or concerns every day about things that our residents or residents in my ward would like to see more of. They'd like to see more road safety measures, traffic mitigation measures put in place. They'd like to see the windrows cleared, not just the sidewalks, but the windrows cleared so that they don't have to do that. They would like to see, you know, more community skating rinks, an outdoor rink. You know, there's a number of things that I would love to be able to say, yes, these should be priorities and we could offer, but recognizing that it does have to be looked at in its totality, and some difficult decisions to be made with that. I was pleased to be able to see that we were including traffic mitigation strategies as a priority, because that is something that we hear a lot from the residents that came out in terms of the public consultation input. But recognizing that those mitigation strategies aren't just for a few roads in Ward 7, but that there are residents throughout the town that are similarly looking for those priorities. And, you know, we have to fund that somehow. So, you know, I was glad to see that that funding did get maintained in this final budget. I think that there are a number of other things that are enhancements that people have been asking for, and we've looked at how we could support those without really affecting or cutting back in existing services in other areas. So it's not easy. I would love to be able to sit here and say that I'm not supporting this budget because I don't think that we should be taxing anybody anything. But I'm also mindful of one of the residents during the election campaign that I encountered, whose first comment to me was, "If I vote for you, will you raise taxes?" And of course my inclination was to be able to say, you know, I'd prefer not to. And so she said, "I won't vote for you if you're not prepared to raise taxes, because that's the only way that we have as a community, as a town, to not only support what we're currently doing, but to make this community even better. That money has to come from somewhere." So I am supporting this budget. I feel that personally and collectively that we've looked at a number of options. We've challenged staff to look at ways to keep costs down where they can. We've looked at ways where we could increase revenue potential. But this is, I think, something that really will move us forward without being extreme, and so I support this.
Thank you. Councillor Kerwin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I would like to thank all residents from Newmarket for coming out here tonight. And I thank you also for your criticism and your positive comments. That's the way we move forward, and we move to something even better. So I accept that. I've been around 5 decades now, so I bathe in rhino oil, and I deflect a lot of arrows as I go along the way. Now, having said that, when we come to the budget process, and hopefully some of you will be elected to the new council in 2018, who knows? But there's very little wiggle room within a budget, very little wiggle room. And I refer to things like fire, police, and EMS. Now, police and EMS is regional councillor's job, and he does a great job at it. We look at fire. Now, that budget is approximately 30% of the budget, the operational budget, and as you've seen tonight, we're moving forward with a 5th fire station, sooner or later, plus the staffing of that fire department. I'll tell you something, I'm glad we are, because we live in a troubled world where nation states are dissolving, such as Syria and Iraq. They will never be the same as they were created in the Versailles Treaty of 1919. And there are attacks throughout the world. We're not going to be immune. I hope we are. But we had Paris, and we had a place where I stood not too long ago just outside of the Blue Mosque. And we are going to need these services more now than ever. And I want to be quite clear that I support them, unequivocally. And I have been the beneficiary in the last 14 months of all services. When I was struck by a car on Gorham Street, and my car was totaled at the corner of Carlson and Shrigley. The fire department was the first to respond, and then the EMS, and then I was transported both times to South Lake, and then the police. So I had the services of all three. They are exemplary. I endorse them and I support them, and I hope we never have to use them, but they must be effective and efficient for this troubled world that I talked about. Then I come to operations. We have a fantastic state-of-the-art ecological building and a great staff. It's a non-union staff. And we can be proud of the fact that it is non-union because we can move those people from plowing roads in the winter to our parks in the summer. Not all municipalities can. And at times we contract things out. Snow plowing. 6 of the plows are ours. 5 we contract, and we do the best job we can, and we try to minimize the cost to the taxpayer. We've done a lot of great things along the way. Number one, we're one of the few municipalities who retained their hydro system, Newmarket Tay Hydro. I was on the board that retained it, not once, but 3 times. Well, the appreciation is 3 times. We could have sold it for $30 million a few years ago. It's now worth $90 million. I'm proud that we have Newmarket Tay Hydro in town because they're on Stephen Court. And during the catastrophic storm in Toronto, their power was out and it cost them millions of dollars. We had a hydro department in town. We had no power outages. Why? Because we prune our trees. We didn't cut the budget there like they did in Toronto. They cut the budget, they didn't prune their trees, and the trees came down on their hydro lines, cost them tens of millions of dollars more than what it should have. Had they spent it doing what they should have done and maintaining their infrastructure and pruning their trees, that would never have happened. So, you know, all of us, I'm not saying that there isn't the wastage of $10 or $100, whatever it is, but I'm proud of the staff. I'm proud of this council. We came up with our target. And those who in the future work on that budget will know what we face. We come to council having spent hours at Committee of the Whole or hours at special meetings. We're now going to look at land acquisition. I can look at that land acquisition because I know about Hollingsworth. And we all participate, and we're all respectful of one another. So I have no difficulty accepting criticism. You try to do the best you can, but you can't satisfy everyone, and nor should you. That's the wrong thing to do. Do what's right and be proud that you're serving the public, and that's what I've been doing for 40 years as an elected official. So I am in favor of this budget, and I know there are tough times out there. But the province has done something. They've introduced a subsidy for those who have a difficult time paying their hydro rate. And that affects about 500,000 users. And we do the same thing. We have programs like that. So I terminate. I'm in favor of this budget because it's the best we could do with what we've got. We provided so many extra services that Regional Councillor John Taylor has outlined.
Thank you. Councillor Twinney. Councillor Twinney.
Thank you. That was, Councillor Kerwin, that was very good. I enjoyed listening to you. I think you said it very well. I think the bottom line is you do the best you can do, and you can't please everybody. You can't do everything. You can't not do everything and can't do everything. And I think it's trying to find the
order, please.
I think it's trying to find the balance for the majority of people in town. And if we could do everything, our budget, our tax increase this year would have been a tremendous amount higher. And what we did was we decided on which things were important to the majority of the people that we represent from what we hear. And those were things like clearing of all sidewalks, because we do have many residents in this community that are aging and aren't able to clear their sidewalks. So I'm happy to see that was something that I've always been supportive of, and I think that moving forward that's going to be something that's going to be very well received, and the residents of this town are very happy to know that we're going to be doing that. But we're doing that over a period of I think 2 to 3 years, so that it is not a big impact in 1 year. So I'm proud to see that. We hear from our community that we want, as Councillor Bazan says, we want more skating rinks. And we've done that. I mean, they're not a huge expense, but there's something that gives back to this community that the residents in this town thoroughly enjoy, and we get so much positive feedback. Even my son tonight went out, I saw him out skating outside, and just to see him get off his video game and go outside is something that we need to see more kids doing, just for the sake of the health aspect of it. I also feel that it was in the Globe and Mail, and it's been in all the newspapers and all the media about all the municipalities' aging infrastructure. And as Councillor Hempin said, it's the responsible thing to do to make sure that in 20 or 30 years down the road, the residents that live here at this time, and could be many of our children that live here or grandchildren, aren't ended up having to pay for something that we ignored. And I think it's the responsible thing to do that. So I think it's probably easier just to say, you know what, no, we're not going to increase your taxes. That's the easy thing to do, just to say no, and everybody's happy this year, maybe everybody will be happy next year, but everybody's not going to be happy in 3 or 4 years down the road when our parks aren't looking so grand anymore, where everybody loves them now, or our trail systems aren't there anymore, which are, as Councillor Kerwin said, are used by thousands, and we all know that. We see it out there. So we've done some great things in the past couple of years. I mean, we've got a dog park open that I hear over and over and over again from so many residents how happy they are to see that facility. So I think it's a good balance of adding a few things to our community that are beneficial to many residents, but also being cognizant of the fact that we have to rein some things in and we can't do everything. So in that aspect, I will be supporting this budget, and I appreciate all the work that we've done, but I also appreciate all the work that staff has done so much, because we've gone back to them so many times saying that we need to whittle away a little bit more, and they've found so many savings for us. So I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fay?
Thank you very much. Councillor Twinney touched on it. A 0% tax increase, that's the easiest thing in the world, quite frankly. A 2% tax increase, now that's tough. Can you imagine our town if every year council just said, no tax increase, no tax increase? We wouldn't have Riverwalk Commons. It was mentioned many things that we wouldn't have. How it would deteriorate. We would not be a pretty town at all. The budget that we go through, this really is a process, and quite frankly, this process started back in the fall of 2014, when we have community service, etc., but there's really nothing like knocking on thousands of doors, and people identifying their priorities for you, telling you what you want. Very, very few people said stop doing everything. They wanted their sidewalks plowed. They spoke to us about outdoor rinks. They spoke to us about splash pads. They spoke to us things that cost money. And I spoke frankly at the door. I said, that can be done, but it costs money, and it's going to cost you 1 or 2%. We're all going to share the cost, but it is going to cost 1 or 2% to accomplish these things. And people are satisfied with that. In addition to that, we as a town, our costs that we don't have any control over, quite frankly, do continue to go up. We consume hydro just like you do, and we're vulnerable to increased hydro rates. We purchase asphalt. What's the cost of asphalt? You've spoken about it, Councillor Kerr. I think 40% in the last 5 years it's gone up. Okay? So we need to manage these things. Our costs go up, and that's a reality too. We need to invest in our infrastructure, in our reserve funds for the future. I'm not willing to say, well, I'm going to forego that 1% or that 0.8%. Just because it's not going to impact me directly. It will impact you 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, as our infrastructure deteriorates. So we do need to put money away for that so you don't get hit with a large bill. Investing in infrastructure, quite frankly, that is the responsible thing to do. I will be supporting this budget. I think it's a reasonable budget. We've gone through a long process on this budget that, frankly, as I mentioned, started back last in the fall of 2014. Then we set our priorities back in, I believe, January 2015. I think our formal budget meetings actually started on November 9th, but I think there was an August date in there too, but I keep thinking November 9th, but there were some dates before that. Plus, we have conversations with our staff, and thank you very much, staff, for all your assistance, and we give direction to staff. What we're coming in with now is not what we started with. All members of council and members of the public contributed to this. We're saying, no, that's not something that the public's going to tolerate. And we kept whittling it back, and saying, what is the balance between what the public can tolerate and what we want to accomplish and what the public has identified as their priorities. So, again, I'm going to stress, there's always going to be people out there that are going to say 0% tax increase. Again, that's easy, but it's irresponsible. I think where we're coming in is fairly responsible, just over 2%, covers our increased cost of living, and it does start to address the priorities that our residents have identified. So we can continue investing in our town. And it's one of the reasons we have the best towns in the world. And if we did go 0% for the last 5 years or 10 years, we couldn't say that.
Thank you, Councillor Vague. Councillor Broom Plumley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be also supporting this budget, and I echo all the words from all the members of council tonight. It's been a long night, so I'll just cut to the chase. It's our job as member of council to balance a safe and secure future while maintaining the current service levels. If we cut too much, that service level will drop, and we certainly wouldn't want to take anything away that the residents are certainly used to enjoying. I'd also like to thank staff for their time and their talent in answering all my questions and concerns with regards to this budget. As you know, there were many. I would also like to thank the residents for their thoughts and ideas and concerns about this budget and their commitment for the community and the future of our neighborhoods. I certainly appreciate the time and the emails and the conversations that I've had from the residents and what they're looking for. And like other members of council have said this evening, no resident has really said to me something that they don't want. It's things that they do want. And in order for us to do that, we have to raise taxes. And I believe that we've been very fair and very thorough. And again, I'll be supporting the budget tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I too will be supporting the budget. There's been a lot said by my colleagues, and I agree with those items. I do want to remind our viewing audience that the process did start 4.5 months ago. Been over 10 meetings. And one of the most significant challenges that staff has had to deal with was the right sizing of our revenues. There was a shortfall in revenues to the tune, I believe, in the excess of $800,000. So we were that far behind the starting line when we first began. And I'm looking at a presentation that we received in December the 7th, where the increase that was being contemplated before all of our reductions was at 5.37. I compliment staff on finding ways to bring that down to 2.5, and I compliment council on their efforts in even further reducing that. The reality is that we have a community that has expectations, and I believe that this budget responds to it. Specifically, I'm not sure if anyone is aware, but we're putting more than almost $16 million. We're setting that aside for the repair of assets, underground assets, and the long-term investment. And over the last 4 years, the numbers that we've been putting into setting aside for our asset replacement has increased by $1.6 million. That's what's contained in the tax rate that we have. That's a very responsible approach, and it's something that anyone who's engaged in sound financial planning would encourage us to do. So I do compliment council on their assistance. I want to extend my appreciation to staff for their hard work and what they've accomplished, and I'll be happy to support these recommendations. I will call the question then, in the absence of further comments. All those in favor of the motion that is before us? Okay. The next item that we're looking at then will be with respect to the budget. There is an additional amount that we want to include in the budget, and that is roughly $115,000 as far as advertising goes, and that's shown under, there's $262,000 under advertising in the general fund, $21,000 in the BIA fund, and $17,000 in the library fund. Now, that's advertising not solely directed towards where the pecuniary interest has been declared, so that's an overall advertising budget, but out of abundant caution, we've included the full advertising budget. So I would ask for a motion to... I'll move on. Okay, there's the motion there on your screen. Is there a seconder for that motion? That is with respect to the advertising budgets. Councillor Twinney, any discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Next item is bylaws. Bylaws number 2016-01 to 1603. Mr. Clerk, if you'd read the recitals, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bylaw 2016-01 is a bylaw to authorize signing authority for checks and other banking-related authorities on behalf of the town. Bylaw 2016-02 is a bylaw to impose an interim tax levy for the town of Newmarket. And bylaw 2016-03 amends the parking bylaw with respect to Grant Blight Crescent.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to have any of these bylaws dealt with separately? If not, then could I have a motion for all the bylaws?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Kerwin, Councillor Hempin. All those in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Are there any notices of motion? Any motions? Community announcements. Let's start with Councillor Bazance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to invite ward residents to join me for the second annual New Year's gathering of our community on Sunday, January the 24th, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the Ray Twinney Recreation Complex in Lounge 1. We also have provision for free skating between 2 and 3:30 p.m. and light refreshments will be served. There'll be an opportunity for our local businesses to network and share information about one another. We'll be profiling some local Ward 7 authors, and the Newmarket Library will be in attendance to talk about some of the services that they are providing to the community. We'll also have representatives from York Region Police, EMS, and the fire services to talk about community safety and respond to any comments or questions that members of the ward have. I'm also looking forward to talking to members of the community about any concerns or ideas that they have to make our community even better.
Thank you. Councillor Broom-Plumley.
Thank you. Ward 6 residents are invited to drop in for a one-on-one meeting with me on Wednesday, January the 20th from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Newmarket Public Library. Come hear what's going on in Newmarket and our ward. My community drop-ins are on a monthly basis. All the future dates and information can be found on the town website at newmarket.ca.
Thank you. Councillor Spongo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A public information center is scheduled for Tuesday, January 27th to discuss the proposed reconstruction of Forest Glen Road and construction of a low-impact development drainage system to be incorporated with the project. Drop in anytime between 6 and 8 p.m. in Kane Meeting Rooms A and B, that is Kane Meeting Rooms A and B, at our municipal offices here at 395 Mulock Drive. If you're unable to attend and have any questions regarding this project, please contact Tom Unger, Capital Projects Coordinator, at 905-953-5300, extension 2504, or email tungar@newmarket.ca, or you can get in touch with myself at 905-895-5193, extension 2025, or email me at jsponga@newmarket.ca. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hempel.
Thank you. The Battle of York Pink in the Rink benefit game takes place Thursday, January 21st at 7:30 p.m. at the Ray Twinney Recreational Complex. where the Newmarket Hurricanes will take on the Aurora Tigers. Tickets are $10 for adults, $6 for seniors and students, and $4 for children 10 and under. All proceeds go to the South Lake Stronach Regional Cancer Center. The game also honors 3 young men whose lives ended far too early: Kevin Lord, Josh Sador, KJ Ramola. For more information, you can find it online at newmarkethurricanes.com. It's a great hockey. It's against our neighboring municipality, Aurora, and it's always a lot of fun. And I know over the many years, the volunteers who have worked for the Hurricanes and hosted this game have raised a significant amount of money for South Lake Hospital and the cancer facility. So I encourage residents to go out. It's a lot of fun. It's a fantastic cause for our community.
Thank you. Regional Councillor?
Thanks very much. Actually, this public meeting that I'm going to refer to, I think, speaks a lot to budgets and the kind of investments we're trying to make. So the Newmarket residents are invited to provide feedback at a playground and park improvement public information center. So Wednesday, February the 3rd, from 6 to 8 p.m. here in the council chambers on Mulock. So there'll be proposed drawings on playground and park improvements for Audrey Sanderson Park, Claire Salisbury Parkette, Ken Sturgeon Park, and Paul Semple Park. And all that information and drawings will be on display, and our staff will be there to answer any questions or inquiries. So if you do have questions, please contact Property Services 905-895-5193. Also, I just want to bring to everybody's attention that the York Region Food Network, in support and in conjunction with United Way, Toronto York Region, will have their annual Winter Fresh annual Trivia Challenge, Thursday, January the 28th at 6:30 at the Madson's Greenhouse. It's a very fun evening, very entertaining. There's food, wine, craft beer, and a silent auction. It's $50 for a ticket. You can contact Kim A. That's Kim A. or Kim Arsenault. Kim A. at YRFN, YorkRegionFoodNetwork.ca. And I will be the guest quiz master that night, so I'll demonstrate what I actually don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Twinney?
Thank you. Well, with all this cold winter weather, we can look forward to Winterfest. And Winterfest begins on Saturday, February 6th at 8 a.m. Where you can come out and enjoy a $1 pancake breakfast at the Newmarket Community Center and Lions Hall on Doug Duncan Drive, followed by activities starting at 9 a.m. The fun continues from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Riverwalk Commons, Ferry Lake, Newmarket Public Library, and Main Street. Enjoy entertainment, free skating, the Tim Horton Express rides, horse-drawn wagon rides, pony rides, games, food, and so much more. The admission is free. Some activities have a nominal fee. Winterfest continues on Sunday, February 7th at the Ray 20 Recreation Complex on 100 Eagle Street West, with free public skating from noon till 2, free public swimming from 2 to 4, and for more information on this wonderful weekend, you can visit newmarket.ca. Thank you.
Councillor Kerwin?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ward meetings, I shall be having ward meetings at the Newmarket Public Library in the ground floor. Drop in January the 29th at 9:30 until 12. That's a Friday. I'm varying the days of the week, and a follow-up on the following week, February the 6th, the Saturday, from 9:30 to 12 o'clock. That's in the ground floor of the library, and residents of Ward 2 and any resident of the town is more welcome. Please join me. Also, I've resumed my fireside chats. I'll be meeting with Mr. Sturp from Pickering College and Robert Hume from Highgate this week and next, and I'm looking forward to that. And also come out and celebrate Shrove Tuesday at the Newmarket Seniors Meeting Place, located at 474 Davis Drive, on Tuesday, February the 9th from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Enjoy pancakes, sausages, tea, coffee, and juice, and the cost is only $3 per person. And you can call 905-953-5325 or visit newmarket.ca for more information. And I'm proud to say that now with the completion of Davis Drive, the access to the seniors meeting place is more enjoyable now than it was in the past. And I must say that I compliment our staff, Kathleen Willems, and the board of directors. The membership is really increasing. It's over the 1,200 mark now, and I look forward to my meeting with the board tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Other than that, again, thanks to residents for coming.
Thank you. Councillor Bay.
Thank you. Tuesday, February 2nd is Groundhog Day. Just want to see if anyone's paying attention here. We have next Tuesday, February 2nd. It's my Ward 1 drop-in at the Magnus Centre on the main floor from 7 to 9. This is an opportunity for Ward 1 residents to come by, speak to me informally, share the issues that we have about the ward, suggestions, or just more for a social time. I always enjoy meeting with the residents. I'm so pleased for the numbers that have come out for my monthly drop-in. So again, the next Ward 1 community drop-in will be on a Tuesday, February 2nd, from 7 to 9 at the Magnus Centre on the main floor. Thank you.
Thank you. If anyone is wishing to have a discussion, there's an opportunity to meet with me at Mayor in the Square at the Newmarket Public Library on Friday, the 22nd of January from 11 until noon. And our next council meeting is on Monday, February the 8th at 7 p.m. And finally, to members that are still here, members of council, and to our viewing audience, I wish to apologize for the disrespectful, rude, and unprofessional behavior that certain members in the audience displayed this evening. Thank you. New business. Councillor Broom-Plumley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just before I begin, I'd like to sincerely thank all the members of the community that came out to hear what I'm about to say from Rita's Avenue, from Tom Taylor Crescent, and from Menzel Crescent. I'm glad that you all stuck around. I appreciate it. This is regarding the December 14, 2015 council minutes. Item 35, Yonge Street to Rita's Trail. I would like to ask council this evening to reconsider this matter and to hear an alternate approach to the trail connection that will better meet the needs of the residents and the surrounding community.
Okay. Thank you. Is that a motion? We could entertain that as a motion if you wish. I'm not sure that it requires a reconsideration because I think the minutes said that we'd explore, the staff would explore further, and this could be part of expanding that review. So it's my view, unless there are members present that have a different view, that this really isn't a consideration, but a further option
Yep,
to
my
be considered.
understanding is that it needed two-thirds to be reopened so that I can make a addition.
Okay. Just
Direction to
we
staff.
want. Okay, let's do it as a reconsideration. Then okay, it's moved by Councillor Sponga. Councillor Kerwin. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay. Then now that that's being reopened, what is your recommendation?
Close the vote.
Close the vote. Yep. We'll close the vote. That's been approved.
Is to amend the recommendation, and the recommendation currently is that staff provide an alternate trail option for this area at a lower cost, including the option of extending the trail through George Lousby Park along Clear Meadow Avenue to Yonge Street, and further connecting the trail from Flanagan Court, Rita's Avenue, and George Lousby Trail, and that staff also include a report the option of installing lighting along the George Lousby Trail Park. A little bit of background behind this. If you look at...
Before we discuss the motion, could we have a seconder? Councillor Bizance, thank you. Go ahead as the mover.
Could I ask clarification on the motion?
Sure.
The background?
Mhm.
Is this a motion to refer this option to staff?
Add it.
Okay. If I understand what we're doing, if we're reconsidering the minutes provided for us to provide a lower cost or to review a lower cost option for the original trail. And so this, if I understand correctly, is the intent here is to replace that or is to consider that in addition to, I think that's some clarification staff would need.
The thought here is to have both, have staff continue to complete their recommendation at doing the existing Rita's Avenue Trail
And
at a
also,
lesser cost.
and also consider that item.
And for members of council to vote on either or.
Okay.
A little bit of background behind that, if we could put the map back up. The George Lousby Trail is currently the purple highlighted on the screen now. That trail is currently in existence and almost connects the exact same communities in Ward 7, more community in Ward 6 along Flanagan and Clear Meadow, almost to Yonge Street, which is the same proposed trail behind Rita's. My thoughts are that this is a more realistic approach. It's less money to the taxpayer and something that's already existing that could certainly improve the existing community. The yellow at the top in between Flanagan Court and Rita's Avenue is an existing proposed sidewalk that's coming as the development builds. So there's no additional cost there. There will already be a sidewalk there. And the yellow at the bottom is also an existing sidewalk. If staff would like to include a paved area for cyclists to cycle on adjacent to both sidewalks, it certainly would be something that we'd like to see. But for the most part, I'm just looking for a simple connection with lighting that the residents to the north, to the south, to the east, and the west can use to reach Yonge Street, with thoughts of public safety and the amenities already existing at Yonge Street with lights, Viva, and so on. I'm just really looking for a report from staff so that we can see both options and see costs and see what would be best for the community. And the community that's here tonight is also in support of this idea. And I've met with several residents, and they feel this is a much less intrusive and easier approach that benefits more of the community than just a trail behind their homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bazans is the seconder.
Yes, I'm very much in support of looking at this as an option, and would also like to add that further to previous comments I've made about linking the trail system so that we've got an active transportation network that truly connects communities. The plan as it stands, in effect, does already look at this route up to where the purple joins the yellow, but carrying on up through and across McCaffrey into Ray Twinney as the proposed pedestrian and cycling pathway. So that's already in a plan that we have, and so I think that this supports that linkage and encouraging the development of the trail system up through connecting the north-south area as well. So I think that this is in support of the active transportation network plan that we have in place as it stands, and does provide a more cost-effective alternative, but one that in effect does support more active use of the trail system.
Thank you. Councillor Kerwin.
I admire the resilience of the councillor from Ward 6. When you stop one direction, you go to find another solution, and I respect that. The question I have when you go back is, I believe that part of the original trail system was donated by the Orsi family. And I don't know whether it was exclusively for a trail system, but I think we picked up that property as a donation, and I think we've got to have a look at that when staff brings back the report. What happens with that property if it's not used as a trail? Do we retain it in our possession? Because there's still, along that former proposed trail system, there's developmental land there, if I'm not mistaken. And if I am, please correct me. But let's see what the report brings back. But it goes back before some of the members were on council, so I remember the negotiations with that, and I believe we picked up some land there. And I wonder, it's got to be clear on that, whether it's specifically dedicated, what will happen to it in the future, whether we sell it off or retain it.
Thank you. Any further questions? I believe what's being proposed is not contrary to what was being asked in the other one. So, but I think taking a different approach is something that's always worth exploring the options for. So I'll be able to support the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. There, any other items under new business? There's no requirement for the, yeah, I was going to say.
It's a glitch.
It's a technical glitch. We saw you raise your hand. Okay. Confirmatory bylaw, regional councillor, seconded by Councillor Fay. All those in favor? That is carried. And adjournment. Councillor Kerwin, Councillor Twinney. All those in favor? So, I don't get to vote?
No, it's just you guys are moving too quickly.
I don't. I'll record it anyway. Good. Thank you.
Okay.